Hey everyone, I'm excited to be back and tell you guys about some more weird theory, but before we start, I want to give a shout out to someone who actually helped make the visuals and symbols that you'll see in this video. What you're looking at right now is an avatar that was actually made by me, but the other symbols and stuff that you'll see in this video were made by a friend of mine who goes by the name of Zenith Control. He has a YouTube channel where he mostly does video game streaming, but I will link my favorite of his videos, which is more of an essay style, in the description below and you can go check him out. So big thanks to Zenith for all of his help, and with that, let's get into it. Today I want to talk about augmented, but I want to introduce the topic, the framework, how we're going to approach conceptualizing it by talking a little bit about diminished first. If you're familiar with Barry Harris's teachings and the way he thinks about stuff, you know that often he'll point out diminished relationships in different ways because his musical worldview places a lot of importance on diminished analysis. So let me give you a little example. Let's say we take a chord like E flat major 6. We can see that there are two notes, E flat and C, that are from the same diminished. Then the notes G and B flat belong to a different diminished. So this chord is actually made from pairs of notes that are found in two separate diminished chords. And that means that there's a diminished that is absent from this chord, a third diminished which doesn't have any notes that are found in this E flat major 6. So if we wanted to take this E flat major 6 chord and turn it into a 6 diminished scale, we just combine it with that third diminished that it has no notes in common with. In the first video of my diminished series, I give each diminished its own label: earth, wind, and fire. That way we just have names to make it a little easier to talk about and keep track of in our own head, and therefore see the relationships that we're discussing, seeing things through a diminished lens. So let's walk through that same example we just went over a second ago, but this time using the elemental labels, and hopefully you can see what I mean. Here are the notes of E flat major 6. We see two notes from earth diminished, two notes from wind diminished. So this chord is a combination of notes from those two elements, earth and wind notes. And we can see therefore that it does not have any fire notes. So if we wanted to make this a 6 diminished scale, then we just take our chord and combine it with the absent element, which is fire. So now we have our 6 diminished scale. Having this way to look at things and analyze different structures is cool because it allows you to see these relationships more obviously and understand each point of analysis more deeply. So in this case, we took a major 6 chord and saw what are its diminished pieces. Well, what that does is, one, gives us a new understanding of that chord, which is different than, for example, just thinking of it as a major triad with an added note a whole step above the 5th, which is a perfectly valid and useful way of viewing it, but it doesn't necessarily give us any understanding about what its diminished pieces are. And now we have a way of looking at it that will do that. 2, it helps us understand diminished better because we learn to see its structures and relationships everywhere that they exist, the more that we do this kind of thing. Okay, so why did I just go through all that? Well, it's because I want to give us a similar way of framing things through augmented. I see no reason that we can't do that very same type of analysis, but with augmented structures. So, the first thing we need is 4 terms to label each of the augmented triads. And I thought that the 4 suits in a deck of cards would be good to use, each augmented getting its own label. So that would be like this. And what you can see here is augmenteds that belong to the same whole tone scale. They got the same color. Hopefully that can help a little bit in remembering what suits label which augmenteds. And another little maybe mnemonic you can use is that C belongs to clubs. And then they go up chromatically from there. Clubs, diamonds, spades, hearts, clubs, diamond, spade, heart, club, diamond, spade, heart. And now we can look at something through an augmented framework similarly to what we did before with the diminished elements. Okay, so now our tool is going to be the augmented suits. So let's look at a scale. E flat major 6 diminished scale. In this scale, we can see 3 heart notes. So that's a full augmented right there. And that's kind of interesting. Okay, Let's look at a different scale this time, G6 diminished scale. If we look at the suits, we can see it actually has the same augmented, hearts. It contains the suit of hearts as part of the scale. This is interesting because in Barry's diminished way of looking at things, these two scales are not family because they don't share the same fully diminished chord. But with regard to the augmented suits, they are family because they both share the same augmented triad, the suit of hearts. Okay, cool. Let's look at a chord now. A flat major 6. We've got A flat, that's a club, C, that's a club, E flat, that's a heart, and F, that's a diamond. So first thing to note is that we have two notes that are actually of the same suit. We have a pair of clubs, which means they're a major third apart, A flat and C. So that's our augmented entity within this chord, the two notes of matching suit. I guess another different way of saying the same thing is that this chord is more clubs than it is any other suit. And one more important thing to note about this chord is that there is a suit completely missing here. We don't have any spades in this chord, so that's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at another example. How about D minor 7? D is a spade, F is a diamond, A is a diamond, and C is a club. Again, we have two notes of matching suit. F and A, both diamonds, form a major third, which is our augmented entity. So this chord is more diamond than it is club or spade. And once again, we can see that there is a suit completely absent from this chord. It contains no hearts. Okay, let's look at one more example. E half diminished. Our suits are like this. E is a club, G is a heart, B flat is a spade, and D is a spade. So we find our matching suits here. Two spades, B flat and D, which again is our augmented entity for this chord, meaning those two spades form a major third. I know it might seem repetitive to keep emphasizing those points, but I want to make sure we absorb that and that I don't get so focused on talking about the suits that we forget what they represent. Augmented triads, which are made of major thirds. Okay, so quickly, what suit is missing here? We have no diamond notes in this chord.
Now, with these augmented suits, it's like every chord is a specific hand of cards, and comparing the suits of different chords gives us another way to see how they're related. Maybe they have totally matching suits. Or maybe they don't have any matching suits at all. And this is just an interesting way to see things through an augmented framework. So now that we have an understanding of this whole augmented suit idea, let's see it in action. Let's take a quick listen to this chord progression. Alright, now because we're talking about augmented chords, let's take every dominant chord in this progression and turn it into an augmented triad. Cool, let's have another listen. I really like the sound of using those augmented chords. It really brings out a different character to some of those movements in particular. But this still looks like a lot of chords, doesn't it? So every place that we had an augmented chord, Let's just replace what's written there with the corresponding suit, club, diamond, spade, or heart, and see what our chart looks like after that. Okay, we took what looked like 6 different chords and simplified it into just 3. Let's take a closer look at exactly how. The first thing we should notice is that E and C here are part of the same suit. So this E augmented and those C augmenteds are actually just the same chord. Therefore, we can replace all those with clubs. Next, we have this D augmented, which is actually the same as this B flat augmented down here. So let's put those suits back in. And lastly, these 2 chords, A augmented and F augmented, are actually both diamonds. You can see how getting to know these suits can be really helpful. Especially if you like augmented sounds, using these suits can help to simplify your thinking around them. Okay, I think that's a pretty good place to leave things. I hope this was interesting to you and that you find this a useful concept to organize your thinking around augmented chords. Let me know your thoughts, feedback, and questions in the comments. Feel free to like and share, and don't forget that you can join the Discord server if you want to nerd out with some other people about this kind of stuff. Alright everyone, go do some tonomancing.